of this broadcast is to breed positive thought and outreach within the city of St. Louis. Rick Sharp has been a part of the concerned community for 2 decades dealing with at-risk youth. And now your host, Rick Sharp.
As the introduction said, I'm Rick Sharp. And this evening I want to introduce my guest, Gail Rhodes, a former corporate secretary who has a bachelor's degree from UMSL in Management Information Systems. Today's topic is Black women in the workforce and how they relate to each other. There's nothing like a fierce woman as a co-worker. Through divine connection, the right peer can make a frightened, timid, lonely peer soar above and beyond everyone's expectations. With the right mentor, many of our great leaders have gone on to become president, civil rights spokesman, and so on. For a long time, we have ignored the inappropriate behavior that many Afro-American women display. Many people say that this behavior is a direct result of slavery. However, you can teach yourself to think different as you relate to others from your community. This behavior is not indigenous to women of color. We see this problem as a major nuisance to our mental health and well-being. We want our communities to raise healthy families, stored, wonderful common values, and achieve financial success. My first question to you, Gail, or for you, in your opinion, has the issue been addressed that we're talking about today? And if so, where?
Well, Rick, I'd like to say thank you and good evening to the listening audience, and thank you for having me on your show. Well, I've gone online and read several women's take on this ongoing problem. When describing these women, some say they were downright nosy, bossy, arrogant, and they used other unpleasant adjectives. You name it. These women were more of a hindrance, and their mission statement is to make the workplace a hostile environment. During the course of attending many social events, from baby showers to wedding receptions, when the topic of what industry do you work in, many folks voice the same complaints. These complaints not only existed between peers, but between supervisors and subordinates. I even found people at a coffee shop voicing concerns. Many people ask, why can't Black women get along? I'll tell you why. Many of them do not want to get along. They were taught by their grandmothers, mothers, and aunts that this is acceptable. It's okay to make another Black woman feel miserable for 8 hours or more. This behavior has been handed down from generation to generation, and it has gotten so bad that people have felt the need to solicit upper management help in solving petty squabbles.
What industries have you worked in that have given you insight to annoying behaviors that some women display? Can you give us some examples?
Well, Rick, I've worked in various industries such as retail, restaurant, corporate America, the daycare industry, and the healthcare industry. I have noticed that a lot of women in our community have lots of problems relating to each other. I think professional behavior should be taught way before we become unemployed. They think that manners, politeness, and courtesy are strictly for others. Many people have displayed a personal agenda, and by God, no one will get in their way. One should always put their best foot forward We should learn to agree to disagree. It is not a job requirement to know all of your peers' personal business, to be invited to all private events, to find out how much one pays for clothing, to extend a professional favor only to request a personal favor by filling up one's weekend to get others to chauffeur you around to a department store. In other words, when someone does something for you on a professional level, you're required to just extend it back on a professional level. Not take them on a trip to Walmart or Macy's. Also, it is not your place to find out if someone is happily married. If you are in management, it is your business to inquire how close others are to completing a project. However, it is not your place to divulge unnecessary information to get subordinates to keep track of other employees or to get subordinates to keep track of other employees. I've dealt with this common thing all my life. When I was a child, I went to school with a lot of mean girls. And I was once timid and quiet at times. This behavior that I've seen over and over is being exhibited, and it seems to be on a permanent loop. And this is a major pet peeve of mine. Yes, management also need to read self-help books on how to communicate effectively without causing chaos. I used to work for a temporary company, and I once overheard one peer greeting another using profane language. Since when has profanity taken a front seat to old-fashioned common courtesy? On one job, I came to work only to be told about a fight that broke out between two grown women. Until this day, I'm still not sure what the problem was.
Okay, I want to touch on the church now. What role do you think the church can play, since so many black churches are filled with women?
Let me start by saying so many ministers do a wonderful job bringing the word forward. There are more male ministers than female ministers. Most men tend to shy away from that topic and leave that conversation up to the First Lady to address at the annual Women's Conference. You know, the church is where we used to talk about a variety of subjects. You may be asking yourself, why not talk about this? Some of these same women who make horrible co-workers are raising their hands, speaking in tongues, singing in the choir, running errands for the church, being on the usher board, and many other things. I just think that the minister is afraid to address this issue because it will interfere with tithing and offering totals.
Now, can I ask you something? This is just for clarification. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience, when you mention speaking in tongues and talking about church and women in church, a lot of people out there probably know what that is. Is there any way that you can clarify that for some of us who may not know who heard that?
Speaking in tongues, from what I've been told and from what I experienced, I do have the gift. It's a gift from God. And most times when you become saved, when you give your life over to Christ, you come down, you stand before the church and you give your life to Christ. Sometimes that gift will be displayed. And speaking in tongue means speaking in another unknown language. And you are quite unsure of what you're saying. Sometimes there is several people in the church that can interpret what you just said.
Okay, let me ask you something. Going back over I want to stay on the issues as far as women in the church too long, but I did want to ask, do you think that there's a greater number of women who fall into the category that you mentioned in the church?
Yes, I do believe that.
Yeah,
yes. I think there is more of that because there is chaos in the church. One time I did belong to a church that was somewhat chaotic. Sometimes that behavior is not only in the corporate world, but it's in the church also. There are a lot of women who feel compelled to constantly raise other women, chastise other women, and instead of uplifting them, sometimes you feel beaten down. And church is a place to come to feel love and wanted, and to gain knowledge about God.
Okay. Also, you from based on what you're saying, do you think? Because you mentioned black women in the corporate world, but you also mentioned African American women, black women in the church environment. Would you say that there's something within black culture as it's indicative toward women that there's something there that causes this, has this?
I think because we as black women have been the head of so many households, even in slavery. We were not degraded as much, perhaps, or maybe we were, but we were degraded in a different way that sometimes it's come off as arrogant, bossy, and it's just too much. I just think that it's just been a problem for too long, and I think we need to take a step back and look at our behavior.
Now, going back over the issues in corporate life, the corporate sector, I want to ask you, do you think that there's the same atmosphere present, or what is the same atmosphere when you start looking at the white female counterparts in the corporate world as far as how they interact or relate with the black female counterpart? Do you see a difference in that?
There is some of a difference. The white women in corporate world are not as they don't take that hard of a line sometimes. The Afro-American female that's the supervisor, she's more in a chastisement mode, whereas the white female counterpart will state the case, state the rules, and she can come off a lot softer.
Also, what is the attitude or reception given to African American women in the corporate field by men who work with them, who perhaps may be in supervisory or even subordinate positions? Do you have anything that you've seen or that you could talk about as far as it concerns that?
I know a lot of Afro-American men have trouble taking orders from Afro-American women. I don't know if it's because, like I said, the black man, Afro-American man has had to take a back seat. And I think the Afro-American woman has been given more of a chance to be supervisor, perhaps. It can be very hard. it can be hard for a man, I guess, self-esteem when he feels he should be in charge. I just think that it's maybe not all of the woman, but there is a different dynamic between an Afro-American male and female versus Afro-American women towards each other.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I asked a question about the relationship or communication between females that are black and white females on the corporate floor. Do you notice anything different with a white male that could be your supervisor or even on the same echelon?
So you're asking, is that white female or the white male?
Well, what do you notice a difference as far as is there a communication dysfunctional problem when you talk about black females in the corporate world as far as the white male? You know, you just mentioned black males and
right.
White males. What do you know?
What I've noticed in the past is that there's hardly any problems. I can't think of one example where someone has embarrassed someone. And I've never heard of, I've worked in corporate America, but I haven't had too many issues, too many times where I've seen white men become disgruntled with an Afro-American supervisor or a peer.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't, I just don't see that as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's more or less the Afro-American women and their inability to communicate with each other. It's just, we need to bring our communication skills up.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to just quit bringing your personal problems to the job.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be one of the issues too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can understand it can be hard being a boss.
Right.
It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think we need to step back and take a look at our own behavior and how we relate to others. Everybody is important. Everybody should be respected.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody at the company should be valued.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me ask you, does your family share the same similar viewpoint that you do on this issue, or?
I think it touched. That's a sensitive subject for me. I'm more sensitive to a lot of things. As I said earlier, that I've lived. When I was a kid, I lived around a lot of mean girls, and so I would be more in tune to that. Where others can block things out, I'm just really in tune to that type of behavior, and I'm really sensitive to it. And it's like I said, it's a major pet peeve of mine.
Right. Another thing I'd like to ask is, since we have touched on the issue of how black men feel or relate to the black woman in a corporate setting or corporate sector world, is to take it a little bit outside of that arena and just deal with the issue of dating. Have you noticed how a difference or anything? What is their attitude? What's African Americans, men's attitude as far as dating women who are in the corporate world, who are up and coming, who are somewhat successful or already successful?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you asked me that question, because I was speaking with a coworker of mine, and she was on the internet, and she was looking at several videos, and she informed me that a lot of men are having problems with accepting the black woman in the corporate field, because she's no longer able to be at home all the time to cook, wash, and clean. Because corporate America, you could be at work more than 8 hours. Not to mention the time it takes you to go back and forth to work. And so she says that they're starting to look at other women in maybe in the Caribbean. They're starting to date overseas. They're starting to even date women in South America. But those women don't, the workforce may not expect the same thing from them as the workforce expects from that Afro-American woman here in the United States.
Now, since we're talking about this, I'm going to throw this in a little bit and ask, okay, we're talking about this issue of a black man and dating a woman in the corporate world is black. Okay, is there let me take it a little deeper. Is there a difference between men who are not in the corporate world that are black dating women in the corporate world and one with men who may be in that corporate setting who are black, and how they deal with
I think that the man that's in the corporate field, he can relate to that corporate woman. They are probably a better match since they know how much is required of them in the corporate field. We always have this saying in our community that they expect more out of blacks than they do other cultures. Now, the man that's not in the corporate field, I wouldn't think that he would be able to accept it. Not all men, but a lot of men. You know, you may have a 9-to-5 job. When you deal with a woman in the corporate field, especially in upper management, she is going to work odd hours. She doesn't have a steady set of hours, especially if she's a supervisor.
Okay. Now, are you saying that you think it's a more of a possible success for dating or people who are meeting if they are both in that corporate sector?
Yes, I do. I do think that's more feasible because neither one of them are at home on time at 5. Most people work 9 to 5, 8 to 4:30 or something like that, and they keep different hours.
Let me ask you this also. As far as in your heart of hearts, what would you like to see happen as far as black women and their counterparts, I say the other gender, black men who are in the corporate world? What is your hope for the future driving on into the future? What do you hope to see happen?
Well, I like to see in the corporate world where people get along a heck of a lot better than they do, and they do not bring in personal problems to the job, and you try to, and I would like to see them have a better fit with the employees, communicate more effectively, and to, when, slot somebody into the right job. I think some of that plays into the communication and effectively. If someone's good at this, then I think that they should be placed in that particular job title. I know sometimes you can't always get it the way you want to get it, but let's just try to be real courteous towards one another, and remember that everybody, just because they're Afro-American, did not grow up in the same type of household. Everybody's not a cookie cutter. A lot of us have in common that we're Afro-American, but like I say, some people come from 2-parent families, some people come from single-parent families, some people were raised by grandparents, and some people were raised in the foster care system. And I think we just need to think before we speak. And ask yourself, is this appropriate comment? Is this appropriate behavior that I'm exhibiting towards my all co-workers? Everyone is to be respected.
Okay. Well, Miss Rhodes, Gail, I think that you touched on some important points there, and I appreciate you coming in and talking about what you have seen, your experiences in the corporate workforce. If there is anyone who has any correspondence for you, are you all right with them sending that through? We have an email that they can send that through.
Yes. I have a personal email, but if you would like me to be included in on your email.
Do you want to use yours as well?
Yes, I can use mine. I can give it, that is G as in girl, A as in apple, R as in Romeo, H as in Homer, O, D as in dog, E as in elephant, S as in, no, not the S, I'm sorry, not the S, at hotmail.com. That's GARHODE at hotmail.com. I think it's outlook.com, but I just did switch over.
All right. And any other further correspondence can be sent to RichardSharp59 at outlook.com. I mentioned earlier this week we have a website that should be up by the end of this week, and so we can also be reached on that website once it's been reworked. I'd also, in closing, like to mention that on Tuesday, September the 22nd, we are having our first free creative artist public domain presentation and Our Turn radio fundraiser. 25 tickets will be free for 25 patrons with focus on community leaders. 12% of the concession goods will be discounted at 12%. The place is Stadium 10 Cinema in Fairview Heights, Illinois. We hope to have another event which will be in the Missouri side in the next month. Anyone interested, any parties interested, should contact us at RichardSharp59 at outlook.com. And for everyone out there, thank you for listening. And always remember, do something good for someone because you will get it back. And we hope to hear from you. We hope to see you here Sunday coming. And to everybody out there, God bless and take care.
We thank you for listening to It's Our Turn with your host, Rick Sharp. The goal of this broadcast is to create positive thought and outreach within the city of St. Louis. If you would like to contact this community outreach group by email, please write to RichardSharp59 at outlook.com. That's RichardSharp59 at outlook.com. Tune in again next Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for another edition of It's Our Turn with Rick Sharp.